Okay, welcome to Programming Rainbow. Yeah, this is a crazy idea I had. It's like, what if you wrote C functionally? Like no mutability whatsoever and no loops, no for loops, no while loops, no anything. And let's see, does this run? Okay. Uh, so this isn't a finished product. I haven't done collisions and stuff yet, but this has no mutable variables whatsoever. It has no loops. This is recursion in C. This is recursion. And so I'm like, technically, I do declare a variable sometimes and set a variable. I'm just going to show this real quick. So this is just something I'm playing with and working on. But basically, this is using recursion. So where is it? Where's my game loop? So here's I run the game right here. I have game data. I'm passing in a pointer to game data, and I'm passing in a player and flakes. These are both actually pointers as well. So I'm just passing the address of this. All three of these are pointers because I'm using recursion in C, and that only works if you're using pointers. If you use bigger data structures, well, let's see if I do have recursion or not. I'll take this away. Oh, sorry. I'll not take it away. I'll comment it out and see if it crashes. Make run. Okay. Give it like 30 seconds or something. Because what will happen is we'll get a Stack Overflow if it's not actually doing recursion. And there it is. Well, it is doing recursion, but you need C to take your recursion and turn it into a loop under the hood. And instead, it's throwing a new stack frame on every time. So after, what is it? How many seconds? Yeah, so this is a work in progress. I can tell you I did have this working. I can't remember right now if I needed to add a switch or if it was because of the data that I was moving, testing the data either way. But I'll just show you what I was working with real quick. So wasn't working right now because it should be able to run forever without getting a Stack Overflow. Okay, so this game run takes a pointer to this game struct, and I use const. I couldn't use const everywhere because when I free something, if I have it const, I can't free it. So even though I'm not mutating anything, I still can't use const if it's anything I'm freeing because technically under the hood, it's changing it. I'm saying I'm freeing it. Even though I never set the variable to null, I'm not doing anything like that. Under the hood, it's still doing something where it's mutating something, but I'm not mutating anything. So I'm taking in a pointer to a game struct, a pointer to a player struct, and a pointer to flakes. It's one flake that's a linked list. I have this new player. So I'm going to update the player, but I'm not mutating anything. So what I'm really doing is I'm creating a new player and I'm deleting the old player. So kind of what you would do in like Haskell, you would just generate a new one and then I return the new one. So I have a new player. This as well, when I update the flakes is actually a linked list. I take in the flakes and nothing. This is taking in two lists. One of them is null, as in there's no list right now. But what I do is I actually generate an entire new list and delete the old list at the same time. So I never mutate anything. I'm generating a new list that has the new values in it. So if I need to move something 5 pixels, I don't mutate the thing I need to move 5 pixels. I create a new thing with its new value set to 5 pixels different from the old thing. Since the link list, I actually create a whole new link list and delete the old link list at the same time. And the player create a whole new player. This is what you would do in Haskell. So the render and the background's the same, everything's the same. But then at the end, there's no game loop right here. So what I'm doing is I'm calling this function with the new version of the player and the new version of the flakes link list. And the game data hasn't changed. So it's a static data, which is like the images and the sounds and stuff like that. So the reason why I took this out is because I wanted to run super fast to see if I'm getting Stack Overflow, which I currently am. So I'm doing something wrong right now where I'm not getting infinite recursion and I'm getting a Stack Overflow, but I'll figure that out. Like I said, I've already had this working properly, but I hadn't finished it yet. I didn't do the collisions yet and stuff. But yeah, so this is using this recursion. But again, if you don't get it just right, if you oh, that's why. Sorry, I know why it's not working right now. I know why. So I need to run release. So here's the catch 22 with this. When I run make clean, release, right? This is going to complain because I haven't gone up here and chucked the prototypes up here of all these function calls because I was being lazy. I was just playing around. So this is going to fail. This is going to say, you haven't prototyped, blah, 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 blah. But the problem is I need the O3 or O2 on the thing. So what I can do here is I'll just do it manually, right here. And I'm going to try this. So let's see if this works. Okay, and I called it yellow snow. Okay, so let's see if this, after like 30 seconds or something. So basically when you run optimizing like O2 or O3, I forget which one it is, it will take recursion and under the hood, it'll fix it. So it makes it where it doesn't, every time you do a function call, it doesn't throw a new function on the stack and a new function on the stack until you run out of stack space. Instead, it does it in place. It takes your function call and it actually under the hood, it just turns it into a loop. But that's not me. I'm not doing a loop. C's doing a loop for me. But that's also what happens in Haskell. Haskell's doing a loop for you. Yeah, I think we're getting infinite recursion here. It would have done a Stack Overflow already. So right here, we can put this back. So I wasn't going to make videos about this, but I was just kind of curious. Can you just do recursion? And so like, let's see, player update. I did some up here. Why was it complaining? I must not have done all of them up here. Where is the other one? Where did I define it? So right here, I'm checking to see if I'm pressing left and I could have done this as a const too, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So I'm setting left to 0 or 1 and the same with right. And if left equals right, if neither one of them are being pressed or they're both being pressed, I actually don't want to do anything. So I just return right out of this function. I just return the player, the original player without changing it. I only want to know if left was pressed or if right was pressed, but the other one's not pressed. If that is so, then I need to know this render flip, and I'm just using a ternary. I want to set this new flip to be whatever left is. If left is true or false. If it's true, I want to flip it horizontally. If it's false, I don't want to flip it horizontally. So now I have this value, and I have left and right value, assuming one of them is true and one is false, because otherwise it's returned out already. Now I have this new X, and I'm using a ternary again because I need to move this whether it's the left or the right. So if left is true, I need to move it to the left. But if left is not true, I know right is true because one of them has to be true. So then I'm going to set that one. So if left is true, I'm taking the original player X and doing all the math that I need to do. And I'm pre-checking to see if it's going to go off the screen. So I'm kind of pre-checking it. So I have a ternary inside of a ternary here because I need the final answer without mutating anything. So I'm saying, hey, is this going to go off the screen to the left? If it is, do the what I set to make it negative left. If not, I want the new value. And then that's going to be set as new X. And the same thing happens if left was false. Now we're checking the right. Same thing, I'm going to pre-check. Will this new movement move me off to the right? If it does, set that. If not, give me the new value. So I now have this new X. Now I'm creating a whole new, on the heap, a whole new player because I can't mutate the old player. And I haven't dealt with errors cleaning up properly yet. But anyway, so I create a whole new player on the heap called new player. I do make sure that new player exists. And now I'm filling in the new player. So this is one of the things where technically I'm not mutating anything. There's no way for me to calc this and set it at the same time. That's just not possible, that as far as I know in C. So when I say I'm not mutating anything, I'm never setting something to a value and then setting it to a different value. Although technically calc is setting it to 0 and I'm setting it, you really can't do it in C. So basically I'm setting it for me the first time. So it's not true, but it's to my coding. I'm only setting anything one time. I'm never mutating any variable. But yeah, it is technically not true here because that is being set to 0 first. But there's just no way to do it in C that I know of. So I'm just using the new X variable, whatever the Y never changes, so that is a constant. And I'm using whatever was on the old player. I'm setting it now to the new player. Whatever is on the old player, and the flip is set to the new flip. I'm freeing the old player and returning the new player. This is how you would do it in like Haskell and stuff. So the flakes gets crazy because I'm dealing with lists and I delete one list as I go down the list and generate a new list at the same time. It's kind of how you do it in Haskell, but it's much harder. But I do the same thing that I was doing with the player there. I'm going to actually create a new with calloc flake, and I never mutate anything. So when I create a new flake, that new flake's already going to have its link already there. So I always create the new flake in the front of the list because I can always, while I'm creating the flake, link it to the next one. And when I delete it, I always delete the flake from the front of the list. So I always got the next flake. I'm already holding on to the next flake. So the flake update's going to go through and delete one linked list as it generates the second linked list at the same time. And it's going to return the new linked list. And draws don't do anything special. They're just drawing things. They're not changing anything. And the run is not doing anything. This one is creating my data, which I'm actually running this function, which returns a struct, or it returns two values. Does it return a struct? So this is returning this game data struct. Yeah. So, and it's not even a pointer to a struct. It's just returning the actual struct. So what happens is this returns a game data struct. This function takes in a game data struct and returns a new game data struct. And then this one takes in that game data struct and returns a new one. Each one is always a new one. There's no mutation happening. Whatever the old one was, it's just gone. It's lost. It's off for these are stack. So it's just off the stack. This is the last one that's created on the stack. And then I just use the address of it, and I can, it never mutates. So I just use the address of it and I can pass it into the player, or down here when we finally get to the running of the game, I'm just passing in the address. So I generate the white flakes, and then I just basically generate onto the front of it the yellow flakes. So I'm not mutating anything. What happens is I make a flake, and then when I make a new flake, when I make the first flake, I have an address to that flake. When I make a new flake, I make the new one. And while I'm making the new one, I set the next flake address to that last flake. So I keep adding them to the front. So that way I can take this one and I can just do this one. I can just keep adding onto it. So I never need to change anything. I'm not mutating anything. Yeah. So kind of silly thing. You shouldn't do this in practice because it's like you don't know if your compiler is technically going to let you do recursion. GCC lets you sometimes, like it depends on how you do it and what data you're passing around, and you kind of just have to try it and see if you get a Stack Overflow. Not really recommended, but it's just a goofy idea. Like, can I make something where I never mutate a variable and I have no loops? Everything is recursion and everything is, like within what's possible for me to do. Like I can't set everything to a static. It won't let me. Again, if I did the calloc, then I couldn't, but like within the spirit, I'm never mutating in everything. I never set a value to anything and then go back and change that value. That never happens in this program. Although technically the calloc is setting things to 0. And I also, when I get the width and height, so this is one of those things. So this again, and I could probably do this as a surface and get away with it. I could probably do it as a surface. The problem with this is when you're passing in, I need to pass the address in to set it. So technically I haven't set this to anything. This is garbage data. This is the first time they're being set. So it's in the spirit, but you can only go so far in C. That like when you create something on the heap, you have to set it afterwards. If I'm doing this, like if I'm setting these values, there's no way for me to create this here. I can't declare W while I'm sending it in to this function to set it. So that's not really possible. But I'm never setting W and then resetting W somewhere else to something else. Never do that. It's always going to be a new item whenever I could change this over to a surface, and then I could just directly get the surface width and height. So I might do that for this one specifically, but that doesn't fix the calc problem where there's nothing I can really do for that. I can't set this value right here while I'm calcing it, as far as I know. Maybe somebody else is better than me can. I don't know. But so those are the two instances. This right here and this query right here, where I'm technically declaring it here and then setting it here. This one, I'm technically setting it to zeros here and then setting it again here. I hate this, but there's no way for me to not do it. But everything else, I have no for loops anywhere. I have no while loops. I just no loops. There's no loops. I'm using recursion, and I'm using like the idea of immutability, like where I never set and reset everything. Anyway, pretty silly. I'm just gonna, send this out as a video, and I'm probably finish this off and make it the complete program. Although I don't recommend anybody actually program this way in C. This is just a strange curiosity project, right? It's not recommended. I don't think anybody is supposed to be programming this way. I'm pretty sure NASA actually has a rule against this, against recursion and stuff like that, because as you saw, if I compile it wrong, so this is just so I can speed it up, so I can make it happen faster, so I can run this thing at full speed. If I compile this without this 03, right, and then I run it, it's going to give me a Stack Overflow. Yeah, there we go. So segment address boundary error. This is I ran out of stack room, I think. But and it was 10 seconds, it looks like. So if I were to add in the let's try the O2. Oh, not 02, sorry. The O2 and try that. 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like it might be doing it. So the 30 frames a second video is not catching how fast it's moving. This stuff is like on my screen just streaking by. This is probably running at upwards of 12,000 frames a second, something like that. When I completely reinstalled my system the other day without any of the kind of because this is I'm using the 370HX, the AI, the new chip from AMD. And I had to compile everything manually and stuff to get it kind of halfway working for a while. But then I've reinstalled my system, and I found out I can actually get between 20 and 24,000 FPS in the C and C++ version of this game. On camera, before I did that, I was only getting 14, and on camera maybe 12 or something. But I actually got like 20 to 24 now, which is pretty wild. So this is running somewhere in there, somewhere between 12 and 24,000 FPS, and it would have overrun the stack by now. But originally, the player was just some simple information, so I was just passing in the player as a struct, not a heap allocated struct, but just a struct on the stack, and it would not do that. If the player is, now the player is a pointer to a struct. But if I just had a really basic struct that had nothing but a rectangle in it, I think it just had a rectangle in it and something else, one other thing, the direction or something, it just would not. The only way you would know is just by trying it and seeing if it overflowed the stack. So anyway, that's kind of this goofy thing that I was playing around with. I've also been playing around with the AI thing. Every once in a while, I play around with this neural network version of this as well, and I have another direction I want to go with it. Just been too lazy to do it, but I have played around with it off camera like several times and trained things up like a million times and stuff. And I never kind of got where I wanted to go for making a video. But I'm going to play around with it again, and eventually I will make some stuff on it or talk about it again. But anyway, this is kind of like a goofy little thing I was playing around with. I don't know if anybody's interested or has done this before, but this is kind of like what C would look like if it was a functional programming language. Let's see what the player was. Yeah, the player is just if it's flipped or not, and the rectangle. And that was enough to trigger it to not allow it to have infinite recursion. If I do this as a direct struct and not as a point heap allocated with a pointer to a struct. I'll play around with this and maybe I'll push it on even in its unfinished state so people can look at it and play around with it. But I haven't done a lot of stuff like a proper shutdown if something goes wrong. I haven't really dealt with that in a good way yet. I haven't dealt with collisions, other things like that yet. So it's just goofy thing. And it's already like 400 lines long. Oh, it's more than 400. It's 500. Yeah. So I'm guessing it would probably double in length. And I'll break it out into separate files. But I was just kind of just had it on my mind. What could you do this? Could you just use recursion and see? Like, would you get away with it? And you sort of can. Although, again, not recommended. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. And I hope that was entertaining or you had fun. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.